I just wanted to give a little update in terms of the E2 visa numbers for the 2020 government fiscal year. So the government fiscal year is a little different than the calendar year. It ends in September. So it ended September 30th, 2019. The State Department just a couple weeks ago released the latest numbers for all non-immigrant visas that were processed at U.S. consulates around the world. And as you can imagine, 2020 was a very different year than what we anticipated. And I stand corrected. The government fiscal year for 2020 ended. It basically went from October 1st, 2019 to September 30th, 2020. So we just got the numbers for the 2020 government fiscal year for non-immigrant visa issuances. And in the 2019 fiscal year, there were over 8.7 million non-immigrant visas issued across 160 different embassies and consulates around the world, with all different types of visa categories from A to Z. I want to talk a little bit about the E visa category, specifically the E2 visa and the numbers for that. But overall, non-immigrant visa issuances went way, way down, as many of the consulates and embassies were closed, and a few are still closed for a lot of non-immigrant processing of visas. So it went down over 50%, nearly 60% decrease year over year in terms of the issuances of non-immigrant visas across different U.S. consulates and embassies around the world. Just for those that are not familiar with the E2 visa, it allows foreign nationals from about 80 different countries that the U.S. has a treaty of navigation and commerce with to move to the U.S. We've had clients invest as little as $80,000. I've heard of cases even lower, but generally the minimum's closer to $150,000 in a business that's going to employ a few Americans. And they have to have a controlling interest in the business, so at least 50% ownership in that U.S. entity to be eligible for the E2 visa. Some big policy updates for the 2020 government year. Mexico's validity period went up. It was originally a 12-month E2 visa that they would issue, and now it's for 48 months. So that gives a lot of more flexibility where Mexicans don't have to be constantly renewing the visa pretty much every year. And now they'll have it for a 4-year term, which we're very excited about. And many of our Mexican clients are now applying in Mexico City, as they've started accepting E2 visa applications, in addition to Ciudad Juarez, which has been the traditional U.S. consulate post for E2 visa interviews for quite some time. The validity period, though, in a few countries has decreased, such as Chile from 5 years to 12 months, Denmark 5 years to 18 months, Latvia 5 years to 34 months, Norway went down from 5 years to 36 months, and then Macedonia is no longer eligible for E2 visa applicants. Other countries that have canceled the treaty over the years include Bolivia and Ecuador, and I believe it was the U.S. that canceled the E2 treaty that we had with Iran. So unfortunately, some of the E2 validity periods have shortened. It's all that much more important that you have a good business to support your E2 visa petition for the initial interview, as well as to renew the business. I'm going to go through a little bit of the approvals, denials, and then the denial rate as well. So as you can see on my screen, the denial rate went up a little bit in 2020 to 12%. So still 88% of E2 visa applicants are being approved, which is very high when you compare that to other non-immigrant visa categories, which I believe the denial rate's nearly double, around 25%. So you have a lot of approvals from 2016 to 2019 stayed steady around 40 to 44,000. And then a big dive in 2020 to 23,000 approvals, 3,200 denials, representing a final denial rate of 12% for the 2020 government fiscal year. And some of the top countries include Japan still, Canada, South Korea, Germany, France. A lot of the Japanese aren't doing the entrepreneur option. They're generally managers that are being transferred to work at large Japanese corporations. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. But overall, it's good to see that many of the consulates are back open processing E2 visa applicants, as well as we've had clients that were already in the U.S. or had entered in on a B1, B2 visa and have done a change of status with USCIS premium processing. I believe it's taken about 15 days. So that's a different option. Seek counsel of your immigration attorney. Always work with a licensed U.S. immigration attorney. Where at Visa Franchise, all we do is find and analyze businesses that might be eligible for an E2 visa. But I can't emphasize enough to get involved with an immigration attorney early on in the process to make sure that the E2 visa is the right category for you. Thanks a lot. This has been Patrick Findaro, co-founder at Visa Franchise Embedded Biz. If you like this video, like it, please share it, follow our page on YouTube as well as LinkedIn, and really appreciate it.